The stars always looked peaceful from the hill behind the old greenhouse. Evan sat there, knees pulled to his chest, staring at the sky. Every evening he came to this spot. It was quiet. It was the place where he and Maya used to talk, dream, and laugh. But Maya had moved away 6 months ago. She wasn't just in another town. She was on another planet. A science colony, orbiting Yalari Prime. Her family had transferred for work. And just like that, she was gone. The messages had been frequent at first. Then they became shorter, and they stopped. Evan missed her more than words could say. He pulled out the tiny communicator from his pocket. Her last message still glowed on the screen. Hope you're doing okay? Things here are busy? Miss you. That was 3 weeks ago. He didn't know what to reply anymore. Every message he typed felt too heavy, too awkward. It's too much, but he still cared. Deeply at school, Evan tried to act normal. He laughed when his friends joked. He focused on his studies. He worked on the robotics project alone now. It was the same project he and Maya had started, designing a rover that could explore rough alien surfaces. She was the one with wild ideas. He was the one who made them real. Now, with her gone, even the work felt dull. But something inside him refused to let go. That night, back at the hill, Evan stared up again. He whispered, "Do you even think about me anymore, Maya?" A small breeze brushed against his face. It reminded him of her laugh, light, free, full of life. Suddenly an idea struck him. Maya once said, "If we ever lose touch, build something crazy and send it flying to me. That way I'll know you didn't forget." But I laughed at the time, but now. Maybe that was his answer. For the next few days, Evan worked in silence. He rebuilt their rover from scratch. But this time, it wasn't meant to explore rocks. It had one mission: deliver a message. He called it Project Hope. Using scavenged parts, he turned the rover into a small flying drone. He added solar wings and coded a simple AI program to follow a beacon, the kind used in Maya's colony. It was wild, risky, probably wouldn't work, but he smiled for the first time in weeks. He loaded a message into the drone's memory. Just 5 words: "I didn't forget. Still here." He launched it from the hill at sunrise. It soared into the sky, tiny and brave. Days passed. Then a message blinked on Evan's communicator. Unknown sender. He opened it with shaking hands. It was a video. Maya's face appeared, smiling and teary-eyed. "You actually did it," she said, laughing. "You really sent something across stars for me." She held up the drone, scratched, but glowing. "Sorry I stopped writing. Everything got so busy here. But I thought about you every day." She paused. "Let's talk again. Really talk, please." Evan stared at the screen, heart racing. For the first time in a long while, he didn't feel alone. Stars were still far away, but hope was closer now. And in that small, human way, by building, by trying, by not giving up, Evan had bridged the silence between them. Asterisk. The video from Maya played in Evan's mind again and again. "You really sent something across stars." For me, he smiled every time he remembered those words. It made him feel like he mattered again, like he wasn't forgotten. But now came the hard part. She had said, "Let's talk again." But they hadn't yet. He sent her a reply the same day, a short video message, thanking her, telling her he missed her. But there was no answer. Not the next day, the next week. The silence was back, and this time it hurt even more. Evan sat in his garage, surrounded by broken wires and scraps of metal. He had started building a second drone, not to send this time, but just to keep busy, to stay hopeful. His mom peeked in. "You've been out here all day," she said gently. "You want to come eat?" "I'm not hungry," he replied. She walked over and sat beside him. "Is this about Maya?" He looked down and nodded. "I thought we were talking again. But now she's gone quiet." His mom placed a hand on his shoulder. Maybe she's scared too. Or maybe she doesn't know what to say. That doesn't mean she's stopped caring. Evan stayed quiet. Then his mom added, You reached across stars once. Maybe you just have to reach again. That night, Evan lay in bed, thinking about those words. He wanted to talk to Maya. Not just send messages, really talk. But the distance between them was so big then. An idea slowly formed in his mind. Not just a message, but something that could speak for him. Something bold, something human. He jumped out of bed and rushed to his computer. The next few days were a blur. Evan designed a virtual space, a small, peaceful garden floating in space. He filled it with soft music, glowing lights, and stars that moved across the sky. In the middle was a tree made of stardust. He called it the memory tree. Anyone with a link could visit. They could walk around, listen, and leave a message. At the base of the tree, Evan left a note. This place is for Maya. If you find it, I'm still waiting. He sent the link to her private channel. Then he waited. A week passed. Nothing. Evan returned to the hill one night. Sitting in the same spot. The stars above blinked gently. He sighed. Maybe she really did forget. But deep inside, a small voice whispered, "Don't give up. You didn't come this far to stop now." That voice, that small, stubborn human voice, kept him going. 2 days later, a notification buzzed on his communicator. One visitor in the memory tree. Evan rushed to his screen. Inside the garden, someone had left a glowing orb at the foot of the tree. He clicked it. Maya's voice played. "Evan, this is beautiful. I don't know how to say this right. Things here have been hard. I didn't mean to go quiet again. She paused, then added softly, "I miss you more than I thought possible, and I was scared that too much had changed."
Another
Pause. "But this place you made, it feels like home, like us." Evan felt his chest tighten. Maya's voice continued, "If you're still waiting, then I'm still here too." Evan didn't know what tomorrow would bring. He didn't know if things would ever be like before, but he smiled through his tears because she came, because he didn't give up, because even across space, humans still found ways to reach each other, and that hope, that simple, stubborn hope, was stronger than distance. Asterisk. The days felt brighter now, not because the sun had changed, but because Evan felt something he hadn't in a long time. He felt close. To Maya again? They hadn't spoken directly. The message she left in the memory tree stayed with him. Her words were soft, unsure, but full of meaning. "If you're still waiting, then I'm still here too." Evan visited the memory tree every day. He added new things, floating flowers, tiny birds made of starlight, and messages tucked inside glowing leaves. He never said too much. It's just enough to show that he cared, and sometimes late at night a new leaf would appear. From her, it was like they were talking, in their own quiet way. One afternoon, Evan was helping at his dad's repair shop. He was fixing a satellite dish, hands covered in dust, when his communicator buzzed. A direct message from Maya. He froze, then slowly opened it. "Hi, I wanted to say thank you." The memory tree, the drone, not giving up. "Still scared, Evan. Not of you, just of change. Of how things feel different. But I still want to try. Do you want to talk? Voice call? Just us." His heart pounded. A real voice call. After so long, he wiped his hands, stared at the screen, and typed one word: yes. That evening, Evan sat in his room, staring at the little blue screen. The call was scheduled for 7:00 p.m. It was 6:59. He took a deep breath, adjusted his headphones, and waited. Then the screen blinked, connected. Maya's voice came through, soft and unsure. "Hi," Evan swallowed. "Hi." Silence followed for a few seconds, but it wasn't cold. It was full of memories of laughter, shared dreams, and long conversations under the stars. Then Maya spoke again. "I missed your voice." Evan smiled, eyes damp. "I missed yours too." They talked for hours, not just about the past, about now. Maya told him about the colony, the cold mornings, the dusty science labs, the strange sky that never truly got dark. Evan shared About school, the robot project, and how he still sat on their hill every week, they laughed. Sometimes they paused, but they kept talking. It felt like breathing again. As the night grew deeper, Maya said something quietly. "Do you think we're still the same people?" Evan thought for a moment. "No," he said honestly. "But maybe we're better now, stronger. Even when it hurt, I never stopped caring." Maya was quiet. Then she whispered, "Me too." They didn't make any promises that night. They didn't say everything would be perfect, but they agreed to keep talking, to not drift again, to try. And that was enough. The next morning, Evan walked to the hill again. He looked at the sky. The same sky Maya now lived under. Light years away, he couldn't see her. But he didn't feel alone anymore, because somewhere out there, Maya was looking up to. And in that quiet moment, filled with hope and human connection, Evan knew distance might stretch the stars, but it could never break the bond between two hearts that refused to let go. Evan couldn't stop smiling. Every day now, he and Maya talked for a few minutes. Sometimes it was just a message. Sometimes it was a short video call, but it was real. It was something it wasn't like before when they used to meet after school or spend whole evenings building things together. But it was still special. It was enough to keep going. One evening, as the sky turned orange, Evan walked to the hill with his tablet in hand. He sat under the old tree and opened a new video message from Maya. She appeared on the screen. Wind in. Her hair in soft light behind her. "Guess what? I finished my first lab test today. It worked. I wish you were here to see it, but I know you'd be proud." Evan smiled, pressing the tablet to his chest for a moment. He was proud. Later that night, Evan returned to the garage. His robot, the one he had left unfinished, sat in the corner, dusty and quiet. He looked at it for a long time. Then slowly, he walked over and picked up a screwdriver. Over the next few days, Evan worked hard, rebuilt the robot from scratch. It wasn't just a project anymore. It was a message, a gift. He named it Mira, short for miracle. Small, shaped like a bird with wide wings and glowing eyes. It could record and play short messages, fly short distances, and respond to voice commands. His plan? To send it all the way to Maya, not just with a message, but with him inside. Not his body, of course, but a virtual version. A tiny part of his voice, his thoughts, his jokes, something that felt real. When Myra was complete, Evan recorded a message. "Hi, Maya. I know we're still far, but I wanted you to have something to hold on to. When you miss me, talk to Mira. She'll talk back. Maybe it's not the same as me being there. It's a start." He packed Myra into a small delivery capsule and attached a solar tracker so it could guide itself to her colony. Then he set the coordinates. The capsule launched from his school's science tower at dawn as it rose into the sky. Evan whispered, "Fly safe." Days passed. No word from Maya. Evan waited, checking his communicator every hour. What if it got lost? What if it didn't make it? Doubt crept in. He started to feel that heavy silence again, but he held on, because hope, he had learned, meant trying, even when you're scared. Then, late one night, his screen blinked. A message from Maya. She stood in a snowy field on her planet, holding Myra in her hands. "She made it, and she's perfect." Maya's voice trembled. "She talks like you. She even sings that silly song we used to hum when we were bored." She looked at the camera and smiled softly. "I listen every night. You feel closer." Now, Evan's eyes filled with tears, not sad ones. Happy ones, real ones. He walked out to the hill again, stars twinkling above. He sat down and whispered to the sky, "You're not that far anymore, Maya? Not really?" Because even across light years, even when things felt impossible, two young hearts had found a way to stay connected. That's what humans do. They build, they reach. They hope even through silence. They keep trying. And sometimes, just sometimes, that's enough to bring someone back. Asterisk, it had been 2 weeks since Maya reached Maya. Since then, Evan and Maya had exchanged small voice messages each day. Myra would fly around her science station, playing Evan's voice whenever she asked. It wasn't the same as talking face to face, but it made her feel like he was close. Evan still visited the hill every evening. He watched the stars and wondered which one was closest to her sky. Some nights, she would send him a photo, a strange sunset, a glowing tree on her world, or a smile through a glass helmet, and he would smile back at the screen. But even though they were talking again, something still felt not quite right. There was still a space between them, a space made of fear, doubt, and unspoken words. One evening, Evan sat in his room, staring at an old letter he had written weeks ago. It was never sent. It was the kind of letter people write when their heart is heavy, honest, raw, full of things they're afraid to say aloud in it. He had told Maya how much she meant to him, how the silence after she left had hurt more than anything, how he didn't blame her, how he still hoped. He read it again, then folded it slowly. Maybe it was time, instead of sending it as a message. Evan added the letter to the memory tree. He tucked it inside a floating book made of stardust, placed it at the roots, and left a simple note. I never sent this, but I always meant it. Then he turned off his tablet and walked outside. The night was quiet. The sky was clear, and the stars above blinked like they were listening. 3 days passed. Maya didn't say anything about the letter. Evan wondered if she had even read it. Kept checking the tree. Nothing changed. Inside, he felt the old sadness again. That ache in the chest that comes when you care about someone, but don't know where you stand. But still he waited, because something inside him whispered, don't give up. On the 4th day, just after dinner, his communicator buzzed. New message from Maya. His hands trembled as he opened it. It wasn't a voice message. It was a video. Maya sat on a bench made of stone. Behind her, purple grass swayed in the alien wind. Her eyes looked wet. She held the letter in her hands, a glowing hologram. Evan, she said quietly, I read your letter 5 times. I cried every time. She looked down. I was afraid to answer because I didn't know if I deserved your kindness. I didn't mean to hurt you, but I did. Her voice shook. You kept reaching out. You never stopped, even when I gave you silence. She looked back up, and her eyes were steady now. I want to fix this. I want to rebuild what we had, even if it takes time. Even if it's hard. A pause. Then she smiled. If you're still waiting, then I'm ready. Evan watched the video in silence. Then he stood, walked to the hill, and looked up. Didn't cry. He didn't speak. He just breathed, slow and full as the stars above sparkled softly. She had read it. She understood, and she came back. Not just with words, but with heart. Because that's what humans do. Even when they're far apart, even when things break, they hold on, they hope. They reach across silence with drones, with letters, with quiet courage, and they keep believing. And sometimes, hope is enough to bring the distance to its knees. Evan woke up before sunrise. The air was cold. The window was foggy. He sat by his desk, turning on his screen. No new message from Maya today. That made 2 days in a row. He tried not to worry. Maybe she was busy. Maybe her planet's weather had knocked out the signal again. Still, the silence returned, soft but heavy, like a quiet weight on his shoulders. He missed her voice. Even just the sound of her breathing through the call used to bring him peace. Now, the stillness felt long. At school, Evan sat through class without hearing much. The teacher talked about deep space communication relays, but his thoughts were elsewhere. In robotics club, he stared at a half-built satellite and barely moved. His best friend Jonah nudged him. You okay, man? Evan nodded. Just tired. But it wasn't just tiredness. It was that feeling again, the one he thought he had left behind. That feeling of being close to someone, yet feeling so far. Later at home, Evan sat outside under the pale blue sky. The hill looked different today. Quieter, colder, He held Mira in his hands. The little bird-shaped robot made a soft clicking sound, waiting for a command. Evan whispered, "Play the last message." Myra's eyes glowed. Maya's voice played. "Hey, Evan. I'll be offline for a day or two. Lab's moving to the other side of the ridge. The signal's bad there. I'm still here, okay?" Evan closed his eyes and smiled. She had warned him. She hadn't left. It was just easy to forget when the silence came back. That evening, he decided to build something. New, not to send. Not to impress, just to feel connected again. He took apart an old telescope, and he opened his toolkit and started creating. What he built was small and simple. A light beacon. He set it up on the hill, aimed it toward the night sky, and programmed. It's a flash in a repeating pattern. One short, one long. Too short. Maya's favorite signal when they were kids. Still here. Every night after that, Evan sat beside the beacon. Didn't speak. He didn't wait for a reply. He just let the light shine into the stars. 4 days later, his communicator lit up. Incoming video call. Maya. He jumped. When he answered, her face filled the screen, tired. A little dusty, but smiling. "Sorry," she said. "The ridge took longer than we thought." "Everything's good now," Evan nodded, relief pouring out of him. "I missed you." "I missed you too," she whispered. Then she looked down, as if unsure. "I saw your light." Evan blinked. "What?" Outside her window. Outside her window, the sky was filled with stars. And in one corner, a tiny blinking light was just barely visible. "It took some tech to find it," she said. "But I tracked the signal. It was you, wasn't it?" Evan smiled. "One short, one long, too short." "Still here," Maya said softly. They talked until the stars faded into morning. Not about big things, just small ones. Music, old jokes, silly memories, and it felt warm again. Not perfect, not fixed, but closer. Because even when the silence returned, even when doubt crept in, Evan didn't give up. He didn't let go. He kept reaching with a robot. A letter, a light in the sky. That's what humans do. They send hope across the void, even when no one answers right away. They believe that someone, somewhere, is still listening. And sometimes, they are. The days were getting colder. Leaves near Evan's hill had started turning yellow, then orange. He wrapped a scarf around his neck and sat under the old tree, watching the evening sky change colors. It had been 5 days since Maya's last message. Again, no calls. No voice notes. No photos. Evan checked the signal from her colony active, but faint. That meant her system was online, but she hadn't reached out. He looked up at the blinking beacon light he had built. Still flashing? One short, one long, too short. Still here? But was she? Back home, he sat at his desk, Mira perched on the shelf nearby. The little robot hadn't played a new message in over a week. Evan felt something heavy inside, not anger but confusion, sadness, fear. What if things had changed? What if she was moving on? He didn't blame her. Life on another planet was full of challenges, new people, new responsibilities. Maybe it was just too hard to stay close. He sighed and opened the memory tree on his screen. It had changed. A new branch at the very top was a glowing orb. His heart raced as he clicked it. Maya's voice came softly, "Evan, I don't know how to say this. I've been struggling. Not with us, with me. The pressure here is big. I feel like I can't breathe sometimes. I thought it would get easier with time, but it hasn't. And I've been scared that if I tell you, you'll worry or pull away." Her voice cracked. "But the truth is, I think about you every day. I hear your voice in my head when I'm tired. I smile when I remember our hill and your silly jokes." I didn't mean to go quiet again, just didn't know how to ask for help. She paused, then said gently, "But your light." And it kept blinking, even when I didn't answer. "Thank you for not giving up on me. I'm still here, just trying to find my way." Evan didn't blink. Let her words fill the room, fill his heart. Then, without thinking, he opened a recording window and pressed record. Maya, you don't have to be perfect. You don't have to always be strong. I don't need long messages or perfect calls. I just want to know you're okay. I'll wait. I'll always wait. Because we're human, and that's what we do. We care. We hold on, even when it's hard. Even when it hurts. I'm not going anywhere. He paused, then added with a soft smile, still here. That night, he returned to the hill. He brought a blanket, Mira, and a hot drink. The stars were extra clear, and for the first time in many nights, he didn't feel alone, because reconnection wasn't always about perfect timing. Sometimes it was. About staying when the other person felt lost. Sometimes it was about holding the space for them to come back. And sometimes it was just about sending quiet light across the dark again and again until the silence broke. Evan looked at Mira and whispered, "Tell her I believe in her." Mira blinked softly and said, "Message saved." Then she flew up toward the stars, wings glowing, carrying Evan's hope once more. Because that's what HFY really means. Not big battles, not loud victories, but small acts of love that never stop. Even when they're not returned right away, it means never giving up on someone. No matter how far they go, and it means believing always that they'll find their way back. Asterisk. It was early morning when Evan's communicator lit up again. This time, it wasn't just a message, it was a live call. He almost dropped his toast. As he reached for it, his heart beating fast, he accepted the call, and there she was. Maya, her face looked tired, but calm. She had circles under her eyes, and her hair was pulled back, like she'd just finished a long day. But she smiled the moment she saw him. "Hi," she said, her voice quiet but clear. Evan smiled back. "Hi." They both laughed. Not because anything was funny, but because it felt right. They talked for a long time. This time, there was no pretending. No skipping over feelings. Maya told him everything she had been holding inside, the pressure of school, the loneliness on the colony, the way she sometimes felt like she was fading away. Evan listened. He didn't interrupt, didn't try to fix anything. He just stayed. When she paused, he said, "I'm really proud of you." Maya looked down. "Even after I pushed you away." "Especially after that," he said. She laughed again. And this time it reached her eyes. Later, Maya asked, "Do you think we'll ever see each other again?" "In person?" Evan paused. He had asked himself that same question 100 times. "I don't know," he said honestly. "But I believe we'll find a way someday." She nodded slowly. "Yeah, me too." Then she looked at him with a small, shy smile. "But until then, can we still keep building things together, like before?" Evan's eyes lit up. Absolutely. The next few days felt different. The sadness wasn't gone, but it wasn't heavy anymore. It felt softer. It's like something they could carry together. They started a new project, a shared virtual world. It was called Bridgepoint, a place that lived between Earth and Maya's colony. It's made of code and imagination. Inside, they built a little cabin near a river with trees that glowed and birds that sang real Earth songs. They added a telescope that showed both skies, his and hers, side by side. Every evening, they would meet there. No matter how far apart they were in space, in Bridgepoint, they were together. One night, as they watched stars fall across the virtual sky, Maya said softly, "I used to think that distance would break us." Evan looked at her and replied, "I used to think that too." Then he smiled. "But I guess humans are better at holding on than we think." Maya reached out her virtual hand. Evan did the same. Their fingers didn't touch. Not really, but in that moment. It didn't matter. Because what they had built together was real. A connection made of patience, courage, and heart. A bridge made not of wires or machines, but of light, messages, and quiet hope back on Earth. Evan sat on the hill with Myra beside him. The beacon still blinked, but this time, it didn't feel like a message waiting for an answer. It felt like a reminder that love, when it's true, doesn't fade with silence. It learns to wait. It learns to adapt. It learns to speak in 100 new ways, and sometimes glows brighter than ever before. That's what HFY means. Not strength without fear, but strength with fear, and choosing to keep reaching anyway, even across stars, even through sadness, even when it's hard. Asterisk, the sky was cloudy. Evan sat on the hill anyway, wrapped in his old jacket, just staring at the clouds as if he could still see the stars. The beacon light behind him still blinked. Myra sat quietly in the grass. He hadn't heard from Maya in 2 days. Again, this time, there was no warning, no message saying she'd be away. Just silence. Evan kept checking the memory tree. No new leaves. No messages. Bridgepoint was still. Working, but Maya hadn't logged in. He sat in their virtual world alone for an hour the night before. Then he just logged out. Now, sitting under the sky, he tried not to feel that old sadness. That empty feeling he knew so well, but it was. There he missed her, not just her words. Her presence. He thought back to that first message she sent him months ago, when he'd launched the tiny drone across space. You really sent something across stars for me, he had, and he still would. But some days, being human meant waiting with no answers. Still, something in him refused to give up. He stood up slowly, looked around, and whispered into the cold air, "Wherever you are, Maya, I hope you're okay." Then he took Mira out of sleep mode. "Mira, record message." Little robot chirped and blinked. Evan spoke gently. "Hey, I know it's quiet again. I don't know what's going on, and maybe you're just tired, but I want you to know. I'm still here. I'm not mad. I just miss you. I'll wait. I'll always wait, because I believe in you. I believe in us." He paused, then whispered, "Still here?" Mira beeped. Message saved. That night, Evan sent the message through the satellite relay. Then he returned to BRIDGEPO. It was empty. The sky was quiet, but he walked through the glowing trees, stood by the river, and watched the 2 moons rise. He didn't leave. He stayed. Because hope sometimes means showing up even when the other person doesn't. The next evening, something changed. He was walking past the river in Bridgepoint when he saw a new path glowing in the grass, one that hadn't been there before. It led to a small clearing under a wide, virtual sky, and in the center stood Maya. She turned around. Slowly, when he arrived, her face looked calm but sad. "Hey," she said softly. Evan blinked. "Hey," she walked toward him. "I'm sorry." "You don't have to explain," he said quickly. "But I want to," Maya whispered. She looked down. "I had a bad few days. I shut down. I do that sometimes. Not because I don't care, but because I care too much and I get scared." Evan nodded slowly. "I just didn't know how to tell you." "I understand," he said. "You came back. That's what matters." Maya looked up, her eyes full of quiet light. "You waited again?" "Always," Evan whispered. They sat beside each other on the glowing grass, shoulders almost touching. They didn't say much. They just sat there together, under a sky they both imagined, but somehow believed in more than anything real, because some distances aren't measured in space. They're measured in patience, and trust, and how many times you choose not to walk away. And Evan had chosen again and again. To stay, that's the heart of HFY. Not shouting, not fighting, but quietly loving someone across the silence, and believing that even when everything feels distant, they'll find their way back. Evan woke up feeling lighter. The sky outside. His window was clear and blue. He smiled. Today was different. Last night in Bridgepoint, Maya had stayed longer than ever. They had talked for hours about hopes, fears, and dreams they still wanted to chase. They didn't promise forever. They promised to try, to keep building too, keep reaching no matter how far apart. At school, Evan finished his robotics project. He called it the Bridge. It was a small rover designed to travel between planets. Not fast, but steady and smart. He hoped one day it would carry messages or even people between Earth and Maya's colony. For now, It was a symbol of connection. That afternoon, his communicator buzzed. A live call from Maya. He answered immediately. She smiled, tired but bright. "Guess what?" She said, "I'm coming home soon for a visit." Evan's heart raced. Really? Really? They made plans to meet, not just online, not just through drones or messages, but in person. That night, Evan went to the hill. The stars shone like never before. He looked up and whispered, "Thank you, Maya, for coming back, for trying, for staying." Maya looked at the same stars from her distant home. She smiled and whispered back, "Thank you, Evan, for waiting, for believing, for never giving up." The distance was still there. The stars were still between them. But now, they were closer than ever, because they had built something stronger than space. They built hope. Humans don't give up. They fight for what matters. They hold on to the ones they love, and they find ways no matter how hard to be together. That's what makes them strong. That's what makes them human. That's what makes them